let's talk about the Fuji X100V, the things I love about this camera, the things I hate about this camera, and some of the personal favorite photos that I have taken at the end of this video. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So talking first, the things I love about this camera. I love how small it is compared to my Sony a7 III, which is a lot bigger than this. This camera is a lot smaller and definitely a lot lighter compared to that one. I would pick this one carrying around for street photography or things that I'm not doing serious client business work for. 10 out of 10 times without a doubt. Another thing I love about this camera is the Fuji sim recipes. If you don't know what those are, I can do a whole video talking about those. Basically, it's like a baked in preset for your photos right into the camera, so you don't have to do any editing. You can store 7 of them at a time on here and switch back and forth between them. I absolutely love that feature because I don't even have to edit some of my videos, nor do I want to be editing all of my photos all of the time. It's really nice just to be able to go out, take a photo and come back and upload them right to Instagram or wherever I want to without having to edit them. For example, I just went to Disneyland recently and I took a bunch of photos. I didn't want to sit there and edit a bunch of photos back to back to back to back. So what I did is I loaded a film recipe into this and I went and took a bunch of photos, and I didn't have to do any editing. It makes shooting things a lot more enjoyable for the aspect of not having to edit any photos afterward. And for those Disney photos, I'm gonna include some of them at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. Another thing I really like about this camera is the auto features. So I usually shoot in auto priority with this camera. So what I do is I normally have it set to 5.6 on the aperture ring. Shutter speed and f-stop, I normally keep in auto. To be honest, it's so good 90% of the time that I don't even have to touch it or worry about it. It's just a quick focus and shoot, which is another great thing about this camera. It is such a great little point and shoot camera. I don't want to have to always be sitting and messing with the settings of the f-stop, the shutter speed and ISO. Yes, it has its place, but when I'm shooting with this camera, I don't want to have to think about that. This is more like my day in the life photos or nature photos, coastal line photos. This is not my serious work photos. If I'm doing serious work, obviously I'm gonna bring out my a7 III and I'm gonna be doing f-stop, aperture, shutter speed. I'll be adjusting all of those settings. But when I'm rocking this camera, I don't wanna think about that. I just wanna turn it on, let the camera do its thing, and press the shutter and shoot. Another thing I like about this camera is the build quality. It is very well built. Honestly, it's built better than my Sony a7 III, which sounds a little funny because that's more of like the professional photo, but this one right here is built way better than that is. I don't know if that's like a Fuji thing in general or if that's just the X100V, but quality wise, this is built way better. I also like that it has an internal flash built directly into the camera to give you some of those point and shoot photos or just light up your scenery in general. I don't use it a whole lot, but knowing that it's there and I'm able to use it is freaking awesome. I do use it occasionally, but not as often as I'd like to. I'm gonna start using it a lot more in my photos, but it's great. I've seen examples of other people use the flash on there and it works really well. Another thing I really like about this camera is aesthetically, it's just super nice. I mean, you can't beat the look of a Fuji camera. It's super nice. Aesthetically, it's very nice to look at. It's nice to carry around. I get questioned by this camera a lot by other Fuji users, which leads me into my next thing. The community for Fuji, I know this isn't like specific to the X100V, but the Fuji community is a whole lot different compared to the Sony community. So I'm in a lot of like Facebook forums and stuff like that for the Sony. A lot of people gatekeep it like crazy. When it comes to the Fuji community, I have noticed that when I post questions or if I post photos in those group chats on Facebook, I actually get a ton of feedback and support and help from, whereas the Sony, it's like crickets, like nobody responds. But Fuji, it seems like everybody wants to help each other, which is super nice. And you can't talk about the Fuji X100V without talking about the film recipe simulations. If you don't know what that does, is it's settings you can put in your camera and it copies film. So like Portra 400 or Kodak Gold 200, stuff like that, you can copy and mimic directly into this camera, which is super cool because film is super expensive if you're shooting on it all the time. I'd like to get into it. I'm actually dabbling into film a lot more lately. And lastly, my favorite thing about this camera is the quality of it. It takes just as good, if not a little better, just because of the Fuji colors than my Sony a7 III, which is crazy to say because this camera is like a fraction of the size and the weight. It's just the sensor that's built into this is insane. I love it. All right, now let's talk about some of the things that I hate about this camera, because there are definitely some things I really don't like about this camera, and I feel like if Fuji were to tweak these a little bit, it would just be like the top tier camera and they would not have to come out with any more cameras after that for a camera this size. So the first thing let's talk about, everybody says that the Fuji X100V, and this goes for the 6 and the 4 and the 3 and some of those ones, this is not as pocket size and as small as everybody makes it sound like to be. You cannot put this in your pocket. If you put this in your pocket, this is gonna be sticking out like crazy, or it's gonna get caught in your pocket and it won't be able to fit in, which is something that I was looking forward to when I bought the camera. I thought I'd be able to easily just slip it in my pocket. You can't. This is not a stick in your pocket camera. There are cameras like that I would love to get my hands on and review those, but you cannot stick this in your pocket. I also really dislike how they sent the camera and how you got it and you have to buy certain things in order for the camera to be better, when they could have just shipped it all in the first place like this. And I'm gonna talk about some of those things. One of them being is when they send you the camera, it comes like this, and it comes with just like a sleeve cap that kind of just slides over the top of it. I can't find it right now, though I'll show in the video. But it kind of just slides on and off, and that's your lens cap, and that's terrible. Also, another thing, if you want to attach lenses to this thing, you have to get a lens adapter. Do not stick the lens filter directly onto your lens. You will mess it up, but it sticks up enough that if you were to stick a filter directly onto the lens, it's going to touch that and it's going to mess up your lens. This is super annoying, and it's one of those small things I wish they would have thought about when they were making this camera, but whatever. You have to buy a filter adapter, stick it onto the lens, screw it on, and then you're able to screw it on. Do not stick it directly onto the camera lens body. You will mess up your lens in the camera. And not a lot of people know that. That's like a little tip and trick, because I see a lot of people out there saying to stick it directly onto the camera. Do not do that. Turn on your camera. I guarantee you it will hit that lens and it will ruin your camera. Get the adapter. But then with buying the lens adapter and the filter, it sticks out even more and you have to get a cap to stick it onto there. I know, small little things, but this does add up. And I know I just got done talking about like some of the things I hate about this camera, but I do honestly really love this camera. It is hands down my favorite camera. I have it on me 24/7. It makes me not even want to use my Sony a7 III just because of how light and how good quality these photos come out. And the film simulation is just so easy to use and so much fun to use. It made me fall in love with photography again. I was starting to get like bored and burnt out of some of the stuff that I was shooting. And ever since I got this, I want to go out and shoot with it every single day. And this camera really helped me get out of like a creative rut. I've been shooting the same thing for quite a while, automotive stuff. You kind of get burnt out a little bit. So this camera right here made me really fall in love with shooting like nature and coastal lines, which I'll show some photos of those at the end that I've taken to expand what I capture and just have a lot of fun with shooting again. So if you've been looking to buy the Fuji X100V or the 6 or even the 4, I would say do it. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And if you guys want to see anything specifically with the X100V, go ahead and comment down below. Let me know if you enjoyed the video. I'm going to go ahead and play a slideshow with some of my favorite photos that I have taken from this. And it's going to fade out and the video is going to end there. So have a good day. Thank you for watching.